the American Forces Vietnam Network.
In these videos, I'm going to show you how to choose an army for Flames of War Vietnam. There are 9 separate nations which contributed fighting forces to the war in Vietnam. The nationalist side was fought strictly by the PAVN, although in North Vietnam they were assisted by other communist bloc nations. The Army of the Republic of Vietnam is the second main army that is represented in the game. After the Tet Offensive in 1968, the South Vietnamese army was equipped and trained with state-of-the-art technology at a price tag of billions of US dollars. The United States of America committed nearly 500,000 combat troops and colossal amounts of military equipment and civilian aid to South Vietnam. The Republic of Korea contributed 40,000 troops, although they are not currently represented in the game with models or with rule lists. The Kingdom of Thailand sent 12,000 troops and 26,000 recruits to serve in Vietnam, with no dedicated models or lists at this time. Australia contributed 8,000 troops, and they are well represented with models, helicopters, and armor units. New Zealand contributed 2,000 troops as well as artillery unit, and they too are represented with lists and troops in the game. The Philippines sent 2,000 men. They were combat troops as well. They are not represented with lists or models in the game, however. The Republic of China, Taiwan, sent Special Forces advisors and commandos. They are not represented with models or lists in the game. I still encourage you to choose any one of these Southeast Asian armies, as their Western equipment and organization lists are identical to the ARVN, and we will go through their unique qualities, their special rules and list variations, as well as uniform patterns and insignias in their country's individual videos. You should choose the army which attracts your attentiveness and perks your interest the most, the one which gives you the most aesthetic pleasure, meaning the one that is visually most pleasant and that you'd be proud of to see on the table. That's the army that you want to collect. By collecting your army, you will develop an understanding of their history, equipment, organization, and politics, as well as becoming able to see things from their unique world perspective. Battlefront is set to release our next edition of Flames of War Vietnam in February of 2018, so let's hope they'll have some additional models and lists as well at that time. Spain sent army surgeons and nurses who served in extremely difficult circumstances throughout the war. They are not represented by models or lists. I would like to begin by talking about one of my favorite armies in the game. They're a much different type of fighting force than the Free World Forces, as a result of the fact that they have bunker tunnel complexes that are extraordinary and give them capabilities that puts them on par with the Free World technologies, as long as they combine it with their willingness to sacrifice massive amounts of people with the Soviet communist doctrine. This is the basic difference between the Soviet and Western military doctrines. The Western doctrine stresses a high-quality standard of equipment and training, and they maintain, repair, and resupply their units in the field during combat operations. The Eastern doctrine is much different in that they believe that quantity has a quality of its own. They believe that no vehicle or men generally are expected to survive longer than 7 minutes on average in the field, so why spend a lot of extra time, money in their quality? The Soviet doctrine equips and trains its men in a standard style on an enormous scale. Once deployed, Eastern units advance and fight until they have completely exhausted their supplies of fuel, ammunition, and rations. At that point, the unit disbands and the personnel fall back to the rear, foraging and pillaging systematically until they return to a mustering area, where they are reorganized into new units and redeployed. The mustering areas are the locations where the communist service battalions bring their recovered vehicles, materials, weapons, officers, NCOs, and troopers. These assets are repaired, refueled, rested, re-equipped, then they are randomly assigned to their new units and redeployed. So that means as soon as enough tanks, for example, are collected from where they were abandoned when they ran out of fuel and ammunition, they're serviced, lined up into a minimal company size or better, and as soon as enough tank officers, tank NCOs, and tank crewmen are collected or found a muster point, then fresh tank unit would then become ready and moved into reserve. The People's Army of Vietnam were trained and equipped in these doctrines by the Soviet Union. This has been a brief outline of the nations and the combat doctrines of the armies they sent to the Vietnam War. In Part 2, we begin our in-depth look at these forces and begin showing you the reasons why you will want to collect one of these complex and powerful armies. In our next installment, we will cover why you want to build Pathan Army. I hope you will join us.